Discover 5 amazing steps to transform your life and build a business from zero. An incredible journey awaits. Sarah's fingers trembled as she rifled through the stack of documents perched haphazardly on her kitchen table. An unexpected inheritance, her grandmother's bakery, felt like a double-edged sword. The thought of pouring her limited savings into a dilapidated building brought forth an avalanche of doubts. Dreams were supposed to uplift, yet each fleeting vision of frosted pastries crumbled under the weight of her responsibilities: 2 jobs, mounting bills, a son who needed stability. She couldn't help but recall her estranged father's voice, laced with disappointment and disdain. "Why can't you be practical, Sarah?" His words echoed relentlessly, reducing her aspirations to mere fantasies in the quiet of her mental landscape. Instead of excitement, she felt petrified. Was his indifference her legacy? The bakery, with its faded sign, whispered to her of laughter, love, and dreams once nurtured, now suffocated beneath layers of dust and expectation. As she stood before the old building, sides sagging like her own spirit, a flicker of hope ignited. Yet that glimmer felt overshadowed by ridicule. During her first baking class, she vividly sensed the hierarchy surrounding her, a room of enthusiastic amateurs, eyes narrow and judgmental, clearly sizing her up. With every whisk of flour, she struggled to harness the simmering potential. Would her efforts matter? The voices of doubt, insistent and intrusive, morphed into a chorus. What made her think she could do this? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weeks pressed on like a tangible weight. Bakeries had a knack for being vibrant places. Yet, Sarah's kitchen remained a battlefield, one where her greatest enemy was herself. Every day was a dance of deep-seated apprehension interspersed with moments of fiery determination. But as her skills improved, an ambitious rival emerged, eyes snapping like a predator waiting to pounce. Whispers slithered through the town like a sinister shadow. Feverish accusations about her being a fraud set her nerves ablaze. It felt unjust, a harvest of someone else's disdain reaped in small-town whispers. Would the bakery become her redemption or her ruin? Each evening saw Sarah wrestling with images of loss. She envisioned plunging into that bake-off, the town's festive and unforgiving arena. The stakes loomed. Would she channel her inner strength and show them all? As the day of the bake-off drew closer, blood drummed in her ears, each pulse a reminder of her inner turmoil. Conviction surged, clashing with its debilitating counterpart. What if her best wasn't enough? The rival baker's smirk haunted her as she rolled the dough, producing more than pastries. She wrestled with the echo of her past self, consumed by doubt and scorn. How could she stand before that crowd, poised to reclaim her worth? Sarah's heart danced between fear and resolve, knowing the moment of truth approached. This was her chance, or would it simply be another bitter reminder of her limits? The tension snapped like a taut wire, and she lingered on the edge of uncertainty, the outcome still cloaked in despair. The morning of the bake-off arrived like the ominous tolling of a bell. Sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, illuminating a battlefield of flour-dusted surfaces and glistening molds. Sarah stood alone, the air thick with anticipation and the sweet, sharp scent of lemon zest. Her heart raced, thumping against her chest like a war drum, its rhythm steady yet painful. She adjusted the apron tied around her waist, the worn fabric a charming reminder of her late grandmother's passion. Just breathe, she whispered to herself, though it felt futile against the rising tide of anxiety. The list of tasks loomed large in her mind: perfecting the lemon meringue, assembling her signature tart, and, most daunting of all, presenting her creations before a crowd that had, until now, dismissed her as the pretender. As she slowly measured out ingredients, her thoughts spiraled. What if she stumbled? What if the judges had a hidden agenda, driven by prejudice against her? A wave of self-doubt threatened to engulf her. But she shook her head to clear it. Today was different. Today was about proving not only to them but to herself, that she was more than just the daughter of a man who considered her dreams foolish. The vibrant colors of her ingredients cheered her spirit, sending fleeting sparks of hope through her resolve. Hours melted away into precise tasks, sifting powdered sugar, whisking egg whites to glossy perfection, and layering delicate pastry with care. Each action brought clarity, transforming her vision into reality, albeit a reality shadowed by her rival's glaring presence. Megan, the self-proclaimed local baking queen, was the embodiment of confidence. With a cascade of golden hair and a practiced smile, she seemed to radiate the very essence of success. Sarah's instincts screamed to retreat, to hide beneath the comforting layers of insecurity. Yet, as she stirred batter, determination began to replace fear. This is my time to shine, she thought, handing herself a silent challenge. The audience formed. Murmurs of anticipation rippled through the spectators as they filled the airy space. Each face, unfamiliar yet piercingly judgmental, sent chills down her spine. Yet, within the crowd, she noticed a familiar figure: her son, Ethan. His bright eyes sparkled with pride, an anchor in the emotional tempest. No longer could she simply stand at the sidelines of her own life. As she stepped forward to present her creations, a strange confidence ignited within her. She could feel the energy shift, a collective moment of curiosity, challenging the ridicule that had plagued her for weeks. The judges leaned forward, eager to taste, their skepticism palpable. In that moment, Sarah embraced the risk. What lay before her was not merely a bake-off. It was an assertion of her identity, a rebellion against her past, and a testament to her capacity to evolve. In the blink of an eye, she found herself pouring her heart into every explanation of her dishes, weaving the narrative of her journey, the risks, the failures, the stubborn will to rise. As the first bite landed on eager tongues, a spark ignited in their eyes. Surprise, delight, a potential shift in perception. But before she could revel in their reactions, the accusing laughter of Megan punctured the air, her voice cutting through the moment with deliberate malice. Savory flavors balanced with the sweeter notes? Please, who do you think you're fooling? It's not about your ingredients, Sarah. It's about your heart. With those words, uncertainty crept back in, threatening to unravel everything she had built to this moment. Would this be her undoing? Or could she hold firm against the tide of doubt? Would she allow Megan's sneers to choke her aspirations? Or would she redefine her own narrative? The stakes had never felt so high, and the true test was just beginning. The tension in Sarah's gut twisted as Megan's taunts echoed in her mind, a cacophony of doubt and disbelief. It was a harsh reminder that the real battle extended beyond mere cake layers and sugar crusts. Every word felt sharp, each laugh a reminder of her past failures, fueling the fire of her insecurities. Yet, just as quickly as the clouds of doubt gathered, something shifted within her. The earlier moments of unity in the crowd, the unexpected spark of intrigue, demanded her attention. They had tasted her passion. Was it possible that they could see more of her than just the daughter overshadowed by her father's skepticism? Sarah took a deep breath, the scent of lemon meringue filling her nostrils, grounding her in the present. Megan's confidence was reflected in the way she moved, with practiced ease, yet Sarah realized there was a transparency beneath it. Wild applause from the crowd wouldn't just stem from technical skill. It would be her story, her unwavering spirit in the face of belief that mattered. Enveloped in this realization, Sarah wiped the beads of sweat from her brow. She could feel the stakes rising, but she also felt a newfound empowerment brewing within her. I want to let her reshape my narrative, Sarah thought, locking eyes with Ethan. A comforting smile from her son urged her on, reminding her that the essence of her baking was not only about ingredients but the emotions they stirred. Each dessert was a chapter of her journey, one that deserved recognition for its heart and soul. Invoking all her courage, she turned to the judges once more, igniting the kind of passionate charisma that felt almost theatrical. Every flavor in my creations comes with a story, she began, her voice steady, projecting confidence she hadn't known she possessed. This tart is inspired by my grandmother's gardens. It's a celebration of memories infused with resilience. The meringue is bright and airy, much like how she filled our lives with sweetness even amidst life's sorrows. The judges listened intently, their lips curving upwards slightly. She could sense their engagement shift, their postures relaxing. Megan's derisive chuckle only made Sarah's resolve intensify. You might dismiss my heart, but I won't run from it. I'm here to stand firm in my passion, not merely for accolades but as proof that we can define our own paths. The intensity in her voice pulled the room tighter. It wasn't just a defense. It was a revelation. The stakes had transformed. It was no longer about the bake-off results, but an awakening of her authenticity as a baker and a mother. With renewed focus, she poured herself into the finishing touches, creating each dessert with precision, her hands moving with newfound clarity. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues through the kitchen, Sarah began to feel a significant shift not just in her actions, but in her moral compass. She was learning that beyond culinary skills, her worth was defined by her courage to fight for her dreams, to embrace the backlash without letting it derail her purpose. Each element she created became a symbol, not just for competition, but for identity. But just as the final touches fell into place, the echoes of Megan's words persisted, insistent. Doubt and determination wrestled within her, insisting on their respective places in her heart. What would triumph? If she succeeded today, would it truly be enough to silence Megan? Did this competition truly matter in her quest for self-acceptance? As she plated the last dessert, a new fear crept in, a deeper question that loomed larger than the bake-off itself. Sarah clutched the plate tightly, the weight of her decision palpable. What if success here doesn't lead to success in life? The moment to serve approached, and as she gathered her courage, her heart raced in anticipation of the next revelation. Would she finally embrace her identity as both a baker and a woman capable of crafting her own life? Or would she continue to be bound by old expectations? The audience awaited her next move, and with every ounce of her being, Sarah knew the real significance of the moment was just unfolding. The kitchen buzzed with an electrifying tension as Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding against her ribcage. She could feel the eyes of the judges upon her, piercing through the pretense of her self-doubt. This was it, her moment to embody the courage she had fought so hard to summon. Holding the plate steady, she approached the table beneath the bright lights. Each step felt weighted with significance, as if she were walking toward a new chapter in her story, a narrative that she could finally own. As she presented her dessert, a vibrant lemon meringue tart adorned with delicate edible flowers, she unlocked a reservoir of emotion ready to spill forth. This dessert holds my journey, my identity in every layer, she said, voice resonating with clarity. Each ingredient whispers stories of resilience, joy, and the sweet tang of struggle. She paused to gaze at the judges, gauging their reactions. She was met with raised brows and curious smiles. She could sense their intrigue growing. The tension in her gut shifted from a knot of fear to a rush of exhilaration. With every word, Sarah was weaving her truth into the fabric of her presentation. It was no longer just about baking. It was an infusion of her life experiences, her relationship with her grandmother, and her ascent towards self-acceptance. As she spoke, she internally commenced a deeper exploration of her identity. Who was she outside the constraints of Megan's judgments? Their nods of appreciation bolstered her confidence, and her voice naturally spiraled into a storytelling cadence. I remember the gardens where she taught me the secrets of flavors and happiness. The way the sun warmed our skin, how laughter mingled with the scent of citrus. That's what I try to capture with this tart. But as her narrative flowed, a rogue thought interrupted her. How would this success define her beyond the competition? What if the accolades only served to bolster the facade she was attempting to shed? Suddenly, a seed of determination took root. She would not only showcase her skill but challenge herself to redefine the essence of success. Would it merely be external validation, or a deeper fulfillment that came from recognition of her journey, her growth, her identity? A sense of liberation surged through her as she resolved to step away from conventional metrics of success. Winning this competition has become a mere backdrop, she thought, her resolve crystallizing. What truly matters is moving through this moment unafraid, without comparison or constraint. The judges leaned forward, and their engagement felt palpable with each passing second. Sarah ensured that her plating reflected not just visual appeal, but also her journey, splashing vibrant colors alongside meticulous details. This tart wasn't simply a dessert for a bake-off. It was emblematic of her evolution, showcasing emotions she had buried for too long. As she stepped back to observe her creation, she felt a cool wave of calm wash over her. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she wasn't competing against anyone else. She was striving to express herself fully. Was that enough to combat Megan's words that lingered like a specter? Only time would tell. But just as the judges took their first bites, an insistent voice echoed in the back of Sarah's mind. Could she truly sustain this conviction beyond the competition walls? What steps would she need to take next in her journey post-bake-off? In that moment, the realization struck her like a lightning bolt. Her path to self-acceptance and professional identity demanded relentless commitment, growth, and exploration, even beyond the kitchen. Armed with these insights, she realized she wasn't done just yet. The plates were being laid down, and as emotions flooded her senses, Sarah prepared herself for what lay ahead. What challenges awaited her as she stepped beyond the baking competition into a world where her identity would be fully tested? Would she have the courage to continue asserting her voice in the face of doubt? The moment the judges took their first bites, Sarah's heartbeat echoed in her ears. She watched their expressions closely, sensing an urgency to decode their reactions. Was it delight, distaste, or indifference? Her internal stakes shifted sharply. The competition had eclipsed the personal growth she had so fiercely cultivated. As the judges whispered among themselves, she grappling with a new anxiety. The success she envisioned now hung in the balance, not just for the competition, but for her emerging identity. What if their praise only served as a temporary shield? Would validation from others help her silence the nagging doubt that had took root during her years of comparison to Megan? Between each measured bite, the silence weighed heavily. How much longer could her courage hold against the burdens of expectation? When did her worth become tied to a single performance? Eventually, one of the judges set down their fork, turning to Sarah with a thoughtful expression. You've clearly put a lot of yourself into this dish. It's wonderful to taste the emotional layers in your food. Her body relaxed slightly, but the validation felt paradoxically disorienting. It was a testament to her growth, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely a stepping stone, a taste of something deeper she had yet to grasp. They were complimenting her cooking, but what about her truth? With every thought drawn to the outside world looming beyond the competition's confines, she felt a growing urgency. It was time to define her path. This moment had to translate into something more than just accolades. She needed to carve a trajectory of self-acceptance that held more significance than a prize. Pondering this new strategy of self-awareness, she embraced the sanctuary her cooking had provided. Food had always been an underpinning of her identity, but now she recognized it needed to be the vehicle for her ongoing journey. Each layer of her lemon meringue tart echoed a struggle and triumph. She needed to broaden this expression beyond the kitchen. Sarah left the judges' table determined to find her voice and to explore forms of culinary expression that aligned with her values. She envisioned incorporating elements of storytelling, like a series of personal vignettes tied into her dishes. Exploring cultural influences, she would not merely be a competitor but an ambassador for her experiences. More than just an aesthetic, her future dishes would embody authenticity, learning, and growth. Leaving the stage, Sarah felt lighter, yet the world beyond beckoned, shrouded in uncertainty. Would she have the courage to redefine her professional space? As she walked through the exit, thoughts raced through her mind about launching a blog, expanding her recipes, and connecting with others who embraced a similar journey. Yet, Beneath the excitement raced a voice that echoed Megan's insistent criticism. Was she capable of achieving this? Would the same insecurities she had battled for years emerge to haunt her anew? A sudden burst of clarity struck. She resolved to confront her fears not as a passive player waiting for validation, but as an active creator sculpting her legacy. As she exited the venue, she felt the essence of something new brewing, within her a potential that could unleash limitless creativity. With each step forward, her purpose solidified. No longer content to merely exist in the shadows of others, Sarah was ready to carve out her unique culinary narrative. The question loomed, however, how would she navigate the uncharted waters ahead? With heart racing, she thought about her next steps, each one demanding accountability and creativity. What alliances would aid her mission? And how would her journey transform her into the person she aspired to be? Stepping outside the venue, Sarah was engulfed by the fresh air, but her mind swirled with the weight of her decision. She needed to channel her feelings and thoughts into tangible action. Initiating her culinary blog felt like the ideal first step, yet the prospect was daunting. Would anyone care to read what she wrote? The inner critic that had taken residence in her mind flared once more, reminding her of all the reasons she should hesitate. Moments later, she sat in a nearby park, her laptop perched on her knees. The aroma of blooming flowers mingled with her lingering sense of unease. "I can do this," she whispered under her breath, a mantra she hoped would drown out the echo of doubt. But as she stared at a blank document on her screen, her fingers lingered above the keys. What would she write? How could she face the world with authenticity when the shadows of her past loomed? With a deep breath, she reminded herself of the judge's words. Emotional layers. She needed to honor her truth. Steadying herself, she started typing. "About me. The kitchen has always been a sanctuary." The words flowed more easily than she imagined. Each letter crafted a bridge from her past struggles to the potential future she envisioned. As she wrote, revelations began to dawn. She understood that it wasn't about impressing others. It was about creating a space that reflected who she was at her core. The blend of personal stories surrounding her culinary creations, moments with her grandmother, tastes that lingered from family gatherings, flavors that reminded her of lost connections, would form the foundation of her brand. Sarah's identity wouldn't pivot on competition results but rather on sharing her journey, the lessons learned through each misstep and triumph. In the coming days, she poured herself into her draft. Each post was a fusion of vulnerability and strength, weaving in cultural references and storytelling that breathed life into her dishes. The process was exhilarating, and as she crafted recipe after recipe, her confidence blossomed. She learned to embrace her quirks, turning her unique perspective into a signature style. To further enhance her budding platform, she envisioned an online cooking series, short videos where she spoke directly to her audience, merging culinary techniques with personal anecdotes. These visuals would showcase not just recipes but the essence and spirit she infused into her cooking. Yet, with each new idea came an avalanche of anxiety. What if viewers didn't resonate with her authenticity? Would she be rejected once more? The ghost of Megan's discouraging words fluttered at the edges of her consciousness. Fear is a weakness, or it can be fuel, she reminded herself sternly while reviewing her handwritten notes. This perspective shift became her newfound motto. Every doubt needed to be confronted, transformed into a strategy rather than a barrier. The challenge would be to persist when the temptation to retreat surfaced. One afternoon, she decided to reach out to a few culinary influencers she admired, expressing her desire to collaborate or even receive feedback. With her heart pounding, she pressed send. The act felt monumental. Each message was a bold step toward community rather than solitude. As the responses began to trickle in, some encouraging, others lukewarm, Sarah realized this was merely the beginning. The success of her blog or videos would not define her worth. Instead, it would be the commitment to her authenticity that would carve her identity in the culinary world. Each exchange sparked another idea, another connection. Sarah began to grasp a profound truth. She was not just crafting recipes. She was weaving a narrative of resilience. She could already see flickers of light illuminating paths she had long thought inaccessible. Yet, as she sat back to reflect on her journey, another layer of uncertainty crept in. Would she choose to tackle her greatest fear facing Megan, the ghost of her past that lingered like an albatross? It was time to confront her history head-on, and the moment had arrived to decide. Would she allow her fears to derail her, or would she claim the power of her own narrative? As dawn broke on a new day, Sarah felt the air crisp with potential. She had decided that the impending confrontation with Megan could no longer live in her mind as a looming specter. Armed with her laptop and a cup of coffee, she settled at her kitchen table, the heart of her new journey. This was her workspace, now a testament to her evolution. The sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating not only the room but also the shadows of doubt that had persisted. Pulling out a piece of paper, she jotted down key points she wanted to address when facing Megan. Each word she wrote was a piece of her fortitude constructed on the foundation of her truth. What would she say? Who was she expecting to speak to? This was about more than confrontation. It was about reclaiming her narrative. Breaking free of past versions of myself, she muttered softly, as she let the ink flow. It was a mantra, a reminder that she was no longer the contestant who had been crushed by another's judgment. The next step was crucial. She mapped out her strategy for the conversation, detailing moments where she had felt inadequate, moments that had fueled her insecurities. There was power in vulnerability, she reminded herself. This was an opportunity to articulate her journey not just to Megan but to herself. Throughout the day, she immersed herself in her writing, developing new blog entries that explored her culinary philosophy of resilience and transformation. She found herself writing about how every dish carried a story, echoing her struggles and victories. The words felt liberating, each sentence a step toward self-actualization. But with every keystroke, another part of her heart began to thump with anxiety. The thought of standing toe-to-toe with Megan and exposing her raw vulnerabilities made her hands tremble. What if Megan dismissed her? What if her fears materialized and shattered the confidence she was desperately trying to build? In a moment of impulse, she called her best friend, Tara, the one person who had genuinely believed in her all along. "Can I just vent?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "Of course," Tara replied, sensing the urgency laden in her tone. As Sarah laid out her thoughts, the cascading worries began to lose their grip. "She broke me once, and I'm terrified she could do it again. But enough is enough." Her voice echoed in the stillness of her kitchen. "Exactly. This isn't about her. It's about you. What you've built, what you're becoming." Tara's words resonated deeply, as Sarah felt a swell of determination. After the call, she took a breath and revisited her draft. Perhaps the confrontation didn't have to be purely about Megan. Could also serve as a celebration of everything she had overcome. This shift in perspective was liberating. She was not reclaiming her worth from Megan. She was affirming it for herself. Days turned into nights as she layered every recipe with aesthetics, stories, and even imperfect memories. The blog flourished with her strengthening voice, drawing in comments that made her heart race with validation. Each interaction further cemented her sense of belonging in this newfound community of culinary enthusiasts. Yet, looming on the horizon, that date with Megan awaited her, a daunting tick-tock in the back of her mind. The combination of exhilaration and dread twisted within her. "Tomorrow," she whispered, knowing she had to muster the courage to face her past. It was now or never. In that moment, anticipation blended with anxiety, as she thought about all she had achieved and what was left to confront. What if, standing before Megan, she could turn past insecurities into stepping stones for her future? With a heart pounding and fingers trembling, she closed her laptop, committing herself to an unflinching honesty about who she was. The next day would arrive with challenges, but she felt a burgeoning sense of agency within her. Would she step into that room and redefine her destiny? Or would she let fear chain her to the past? It was a question that loomed ahead like a piece of raw dough waiting to be shaped. As the sun dipped beyond the horizon, Sarah prepared for the journey ahead, a mixture of resolve and anticipation guiding her. The time had come to confront her past. Would she emerge stronger, or would it pull her back? The day dawned gray and muted, a sharp contrast to the vibrant energy building inside Sarah. She could feel the tension crackling like static in the air as she mentally prepared herself for the confrontation. The morning was heavy with possibilities, every moment stretched thin with an urgency she had never felt before. The meeting with Megan loomed closer, and as Sarah stood in front of her bathroom mirror, she couldn't help but notice the grains of resilience etched across her brow. She practiced her words, voicing her intentions quietly as she applied a light layer of makeup, a ritual that had once felt superfluous but now served as a suit of armor against her insecurities. Today is not about her, she reminded herself. As much as she feared Megan's judgment, she also understood this encounter was about the evolution of Sarah, not the girl who lost a competition to a more seasoned opponent, but the woman who had spent sleepless nights wrestling with doubt, redefining success on her own terms. Walking into the cafe where they had agreed to meet, Sarah's heart raced. She embraced the blend of exhilaration and fear, now familiar friends. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped her, grounding her, giving her pause. It was a stark reminder of her journey, the countless hours spent testing recipes, writing blog posts, and connecting with those who shared her passion. As she settled into a corner table, she took a deep breath, searching for that well of courage she had cultivated over the days. Glancing at her watch, she realized it was time. Her fingers traced the edges of her notebook where her thoughts were neatly organized, each bullet point a testament to her growth. This was not merely a confrontation, it was her declaration of independence. When Megan arrived, her demeanor was unbothered, perhaps even dismissive. The small talk flowed effortlessly from Megan's lips, a stark reminder of their previous interactions when Sarah felt invisible. But today that would change. "Thanks for meeting me," Sarah said, her voice steady, betraying none of the hesitation that had been her constant companion. "I wanted to talk about our shared experiences and how they've shaped us." Megan raised an eyebrow, intrigue sparking in her eyes. It surprised Sarah a little, but she pressed on. "I feel a need to express how your critique affected me. It was a turning point for me, leading me to question my abilities and my worth in this industry." The opening shifted the energy around them. Megan's body language softened slightly. There was at least a flicker of acknowledgement. Sarah seized the moment. "I realized that my value isn't diminished by others' perceptions. What I create is deeply rooted in my experiences and passions." With each word, Sarah felt a piece of herself shedding the layers of doubt and allowing vulnerability to take center stage. As she spoke, she witnessed Megan's facade begin to crumble, even if just a little. The assertion of her personal narrative flooded Sarah's senses with clarity and a sense of liberation she had longed for. Megan was silent for a moment, her expression shifting, and Sarah sensed an opening. Perhaps they were both learning from this moment, however imperfect it was. Reinforcing her stance, Sarah added, "I'm not here for absolution or validation. I'm here to own my story and my growth." Sarah could see the hesitation retreating into Megan's eyes, an indication that she perhaps recognized the merit in Sarah's journey. Yet, their conversation had awakened something vital within Sarah, a realization of her agency. With newfound determination, she leaned back in her chair and opined, "If I can nurture my culinary voice through hardship, there is nothing we cannot overcome." But even as she voiced her newfound revelation, a darker thought loomed uninvited. What if this end was, unexpectedly, just another beginning? How would she navigate the complexities of an industry that would still hold judgment beneath a veneer of support? As the conversation flowed into the detailed aspects of their mutually shared industry experiences, Sarah lit up with passion. Perhaps in this exchange they could build mutual respect, or at the very least declare their individual autonomy. The act of putting herself out there felt like pulling back the curtain of her private theater, revealing the raw and genuine performance of her life. How much more was she willing to share? As she spoke, the pieces of her past coalesced into an unexpected conversation of growth and resilience, and as she breathed in that recognition, Sarah felt hope for herself. Yet the underlying tension remained. The world of culinary arts was not easily forgiving, and Megan would not be the last judgment she faced. Could she maintain this momentum despite the hurdles ahead? The clink of cups and the murmur of a busy cafe spun around her with surreal clarity. Sarah had one last thought that echoed, profoundly challenging her sense of self. Was she ready to continue this journey, facing not just an adversary, but the armed ambivalence of the very industry she adored? The time to seize control was now, but the shadows that had haunted her were also truths she would have to navigate. With resolve anchoring her spirit, she contemplated what lay ahead, aware that the battle for her self-acceptance was only just beginning. The conversation shifted into deeper waters as Megan leaned in, her posture more attentive, as if Sarah had pressed a button that had awakened something dormant within her. Sarah felt an adrenaline surge. This was not merely a chat, but a moment that could reshape her trajectory. "I didn't realize how your perspective had evolved," Megan admitted, a hint of vulnerability lining her voice. "I know I can be tough, but I think it's because I want the best for those in this field. Maybe I made it too personal." "I appreciate that," Sarah responded, her heart racing with the glow of newfound legitimacy. "But I've learned that the harshest criticisms can catalyze the sweetest metamorphoses. Without that critique, I wouldn't have explored my capabilities." As she expressed herself, Sarah recognized something profound. Her voice, once quaking, had transformed into a powerful instrument of truth. She delved into her experiences, recounting the late nights spent experimenting in the kitchen, the failures that morphed into lessons, and those fleeting moments where success felt just within reach. This wasn't merely about Megan's validation of her worth. It was a reclamation of her identity, a new ownership of who she was becoming. Each recollection stripped away the protective layers she once relied upon, laying her bare raw and open yet empowered. Megan listened intently, her expression softening with each passing moment. "I wish I had that kind of resilience," she confessed. The admission startled Sarah. She had only known Megan as a fierce competitor, a woman whose confidence overshadowed less experienced counterparts. "Resilience is a muscle we build through adversity. Took me a while to discover that," Sarah explained, realizing her own definitions of strength were shifting as she spoke. "This industry demands it. The pressure is relentless, but it's in that pressure we find our true selves." Megan nodded, a flicker of respect in her gaze. "I think we all need a reminder sometimes that this path isn't just about perfection," she replied, her tone changing. "I've lost sight of what's important. Perhaps it's time for me to redefine my role as well." The conversation drifted into the mutual challenges of the culinary world. They spoke not merely as competitors, but as women navigating an industry that often felt suffocating and competitive. Sarah felt unshackled, as though the chains of comparison were melting away, revealing the collaborative spirit that had always lurked beneath. "Do you think we could do something together?" Megan's question hung in the air, shocking Sarah. Beyond the competition, could they forge a partnership that transcended their past? The prospect sent a ripple of excitement coursing through her. "Absolutely," Sarah replied, buoyed by a surge of confidence she never knew she possessed. "If we work together, perhaps we could create a platform that highlights not just culinary skills but the stories behind them." They brainstormed ideas, visions beginning to align: a podcast, a blog, or maybe even a collaborative project that could reflect their shared experiences. In sharing their vulnerabilities, they had tapped into something larger than either of them had anticipated. An ebb and flow of energies transformed that corner table into a workshop of authenticity. But as they exchanged laughter and ideas with buoyant spirits, a shadow of doubt returned like an unwelcome guest. What if this partnership didn't flourish? Or if old rivalries resurfaced? The rangy weight of trust lingered, compelling Sarah to question her new direction. Just as clarity washed over her, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, summoning her attention. The anticipation turned into a tightness in her chest. "Excuse me for a moment," she said, feeling the craving for foresight and wanting to remain anchored in her evolving confidence. Unlocking her phone, she read the message, a challenge that promised to hold her accountable in ways she hadn't yet prepared for. Sarah's pulse quickened as she absorbed the message. Could open up avenues yet unconsidered, but at what cost? "What was that about?" Megan asked, an encouraging smile on her face. But Sarah stalled, feeling the weight of her next decision looming before her like an impending storm. In that moment, a realization hit her with startling clarity. The challenges she faced were not merely barriers, but gateways to her empowerment, urging her to confront rather than evade. Holding the phone close as uncertainty swirled in her mind, she understood that this was just another beginning, another layer to her metamorphosis. How would she navigate the complexity of ambition while embracing the vulnerability she had just claimed? With the stakes rising, Sarah knew the momentum was on her side. But the path ahead shimmered with both promise and peril, and the call to action was louder than ever. The sun illuminated Sarah's workspace as she sat at her kitchen table, poised with determination, ready to embrace the day's monumental challenge. An opportunity had emerged, an invitation to a regional culinary expo, where she could showcase her blossoming identity and culinary expertise. This was her moment to shine, yet the prospect stirred anxiety deep within her. Could she sustain the growth she had nurtured through her journey? As she prepared for the expo, the memories of her past self-doubt, insecurity, and the looming shadow of her rival Megan surfaced. But as she organized her ingredients, a profound shift occurred. The woman staring back at her in the reflection was a confident creator, a testament to hard work and resilience. She was no longer defined by Megan or her father's lingering disapproval. Sarah had evolved into a formidable force with a voice that deserved to be heard. The day of the expo arrived, enveloped in an electric atmosphere. With every step into the venue, she felt her heart thump with purpose. This was not just another competition, it was a celebration of her journey. The air buzzed with excitement as she witnessed other chefs showcasing their culinary creations, executing impressive techniques. Yet now, rather than feeling threatened, she felt a sense of belonging, like she was stepping into a vibrant world where everyone had a unique story to tell. When it was her turn to present, Sarah stepped forward with a newfound poise. The judges awaited her creations with curious anticipation. Holding the plate of her signature lemon meringue tart, she shared not just the flavors, but the narrative behind each bite. This dessert embodies my journey, a delicate balance of sweet triumph and tangy struggle. Just as these flavors merge, so too do the experiences that have shaped who I am today. As she passionately recounted her grandmother's teachings and her own struggles to harness her confidence, she noticed the judges nodding, their expressions shifting from mere curiosity to genuine interest. It reminded her that hesitation would not define her anymore. Her cooking reflected her truth and aspirations. Each word she spoke reinforced her narrative as a resilient creator. After the presentation, Sarah stepped back and watched the judges take their first bites. She held her breath, each second stretching like a promise of potential. The surprise and delight that lit up their eyes confirmed what she had started deep within herself. She was ready to reclaim her worth, not just as a competitor, but as an individual. Moments later, the judges approached her again, one of them offering a firm handshake and a warm smile. Your passion and story resonated deeply with us, Sarah. Your journey adds flavor to everything you've created. We'd love to feature you in our upcoming culinary showcase. The words washed over her like a surge of adrenaline, igniting a beacon of recognition and validation. She was no longer just a participant in someone else's story. She was a cornerstone of her own narrative. As she walked away, her heart swelled. She had accomplished not only a personal victory over the competitions of her past, but had also positioned herself for future opportunities, demonstrating growth that echoed far beyond the kitchen. Sarah's exposure would now celebrate vulnerability and authenticity, qualities she had cultivated and appreciated through arduous trials. In the following weeks, her success became a platform for further achievements. With the regional showcase under her belt, opportunities began to emerge: culinary workshops, collaborations, and even an offer to write a cookbook centered around her journey. Each new endeavor reaffirmed her commitment to her authentic self, and she came to define success as more than accolades. It was about connection and transformation. As she sat in her kitchen, surrounded by culinary notes and recipes, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment warming her spirit. She had transformed her fears into fuel, her insecurities into strength, and her history into hope. Sarah's journey from self-doubt to accomplishment was now anchored in the belief that her experiences were invaluable, crafting a path uniquely her own. With a scrapbook of her experiences, not just recipes but stories of resilience and growth, she felt the call to inspire others. Writing her experiences would be the next step. As she documented her journey, she envisioned how her words could empower and uplift others who faced similar battles of self-worth. Determination coursed through her veins. Sarah had achieved recognition not only as a talented baker but as a strong woman who had conquered her fears. She was ready to share her story with the world and encourage others to embrace their authentic selves. It was time to answer the deeper call within and invite others into this journey of transformation. The fruits of her labor were no longer confined to her kitchen or limited to competition. They were the embodiment of growth, warmth, and acceptance. Standing on the threshold of a new chapter, Sarah realized the true meaning of fulfillment lay in creating connections with others who dared to dream. The sun rushed in as she cracked open her windows, welcoming the sounds of life and possibility. Today was just one milestone in her journey, but she was ready to step into the future, carving an even more significant legacy. Now is the moment to take action. You need to subscribe now to never miss these empowering stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover their path. Comment your thoughts and theories on Sarah's incredible journey below. And don't hesitate, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and join the community of true fans who understand the importance of personal overcoming stories. Don't wait even one more second to share.